My texture stamps are dry. They're still a little soft even when they're dry. So you still want to be gentle with them, because if you're really rough with them, they can still tear and break. Before I start stamping my texture stamps, I need to write my initials on the back with a Sharpie. And the way that you figure out your initials is you think about your first name. Let me put it like right here. So that's my first name. And I think about the first letter of my first name is K. So that would be the first letter I put for my initials. And then I think about my last name. And the first letter of my last name is P. So that would be the second letter that I put for my initials. If you need help figuring out what your initials are, you can ask your teacher. So once I know what my initials are, I'm gonna write those on the back of my texture stamp with Sharpie. And then I'm ready to begin adding those textures to my artwork, which is the really fun part. I have 2 stamps, which means that I get to pick out 2 different colors. And I'm gonna pick out for mine purple and red. There are gonna be other kids at your table who also have stamps. And I bet if you ask them nicely, if you can use their stamp, they might say yes. If someone says, no, I'm just about to use it, then you need to respect their no. And maybe a little bit later they could let you borrow it. And then if somebody asked to borrow your stamp, it would be really awesome if you could share it with them. In order to create our texture, we're gonna take our marker and we're gonna color in a different way. So a lot of times we color with the top of our marker like this, right? And when we do that, we only get a little line. What we're gonna do to make it go really fast is we're gonna hold our marker on the side. So I have my finger on top, I'm holding it on the side, and I'm using this thick part to color my stamp. And it goes a lot faster. As soon as you're done coloring your stamp, you're gonna wanna stamp it right away so that that marker doesn't dry off. And you can do it a couple of different times. It'll get more and more pale the more times you stamp it. So once it's too pale, you just go back, color your stamp again, and then you can keep filling up that space with that texture. Now that I'm done filling in one part of my artwork with a texture, I want to do the next part with a different color. I'm not gonna be able to take my purple and put it onto the red because that's gonna mess it up, and then I won't be able to use this stamp for red anymore. So each stamp gets their own color, and only that color can go on this stamp. So what I would do is I would take my other stamp and I would do that same thing where I color it with the side of my marker, and then I can stamp that texture in a new spot on my artwork. I finished filling in all of my big spaces with my texture stamp, and now I have a few spaces that are too small for my stamp to fit inside of. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a texture plate, put it underneath my paper. I'm gonna double check that it's in the right spot. If I feel the texture, then I know that it'll work. And then I'm gonna take a color stick. You could also use crayons for this. And I'm just gonna color inside those smaller spaces.